Hello, it's Rani Yoga Devi, and today I'd like to continue the discussion about depression in society as an epidemic. I've been talking about depression and how yoga can help, but today what I want to talk about is really what's wrong with the medical model. And what's wrong with the medical model is that it really doesn't take into account the person as a whole. And because it doesn't take the person as a whole into consideration, it misses a lot of things and then gives people antidepressants. And maybe if you're lucky, you'll get antidepressants and a therapist. But in most places in the world, there are either not enough therapists or they are so expensive that people who really need them can't afford them. So it's a big problem in our society. And so where yoga can help is it can help to fill that gap between not having someone to help you through your depression and actually helping to minimize the depression that you have without medication, because it actually does change the chemistry of the brain in a similar way to what medication can. Now, of course, there will always be people who will need the medication no matter what, and there will always be people that need it occasionally, and those people know when they need it and when to reach out and all of that sort of stuff. But there are also people who need it all the time because the levels will drop to a point that they can't cope, and then they slip into being so depressed that they can't function, or even being suicidal. So that being said, I'm going to take the book and put it in front of me so I don't forget very critical details as I discuss this. So, antidepressants are on the rise. The use of antidepressants because of depression is on the rise and has been since this book was written. Statistics on depression, growing number of suicides, especially amongst young people. When we open our eyes to see how gravely the empty pocket syndrome is affecting so many of us, it is clear that antidepressants aren't the answer for the entire culture. They aren't even the real answer for the individual. We're treating the symptoms when we take our Paxil or our Celexa, but we are not addressing the root of our suffering. We do not meet our suffering at its source. Biomedicine treats symptoms. It treats the tumor, the virus, the infection, but it doesn't treat the whole person. It may even cure the disease, but it does not heal. It does not make whole what has been severed. Our egos from the knowledge of our wholeness. In fact, some mental health professionals feel that medication can sometimes mask the core issues underlying depression. As clinical psychologist and senior yoga teacher Richard Miller says, we cannot simply address the chemical component of depression and expect that the depression will be alleviated. And then we go to speaking about talk therapy, and it does help, but only to a degree. Talk therapy, although a vital component of our individual recovery from depression and other psychological disturbances, also has its limitations. If, as most psychologists agree, the seeds for our depression are sown in infancy through patterns of relationships with significant others prior to the acquisition of language, how can we root out the depression solely through language? Think about that for a second. Recovery from depression must include the body. Research shows that when we suffer trauma, it is mostly the lower, more primitive parts of the brain that are involved. According to Mariana Ekberg, a psychologist who treats survivors of abuse, a body-oriented treatment model speaks the language of those areas of the brain, sensation, perpetual experience, and somatic responses. Cognitive restructuring is, of course, important, but the healing process must also include bodily experience. Your own road to recovery from depression may be finding the balance of medication, talk therapy, and yoga that works for you. Now, this is talking to people who suffer from real depression. This is not talking to somebody who feels off for a day and then they're fine. This is somebody who suffers from actual depression. And what they've been saying now it's 2025, that everybody is suffering at a low level of depression. And as long as they're functional, they're not getting diagnosed with depression. And you know what? You can't put the whole society on medication. You have got to change society so that people are less isolated, that they feel less isolated. There's so much of a sense of separation from others in our society now, and I think that it got worse after COVID. And I don't know if that's the case everywhere in the world. If my followers from India and Africa and all that, let me know if that's the same where you live. But I know that where I am in Canada, things have changed a lot since COVID. And there's people that still aren't getting out. It's 2025. When was COVID? 2020, 2021. So why has it impacted our society so much? Well, because it was a collective trauma that we all experienced. Okay, so let's get back to here. Now we're going to get back to the lady who wrote this book, whose name is Amy Weintraub. So this is something that she is saying that I'm now going to read. When my psychiatrist told me that I would always be one of those people, she was alluding to the fact that I wasn't alone in my suffering. In fact, I was in good company. The extent of inner feelings of emptiness and unworthiness in the Western psyche has seemed all but unbelievable to the teachers raised in the East, says Buddhist psychoanalyst Mark Epstein. In his book on psychotherapy from a Buddhist perspective, Thoughts Without a Thinker, Epstein talks about the human condition and the search for self. We are aware of vague and disturbing feelings of emptiness, inauthenticity, and alienation. Most of us resist these vague feelings. Some of us work too hard or play too hard, giving rise to all manner of addictions that we hope will keep us from feeling our pain. We suffer and struggle and feel depressed, living behind a mask that psychologists call the false self, avoiding the reality of who we really are. Living in this mortal body, said the Buddha, is like living in a house on fire. We suffer. We have always suffered. So why do we see statistics for depression tripling in the years since World War II? Now, mind you, this book was written quite a while ago. It might be even more than triple now. Even before the tragic attack on the World Trade Center and the resulting increase in anxiety and depression all over the globe, depression was costing Americans big bucks. The biomedical Western model of treating depression is costing us more than $50 billion per year. A University of Texas study released in 2001 says that the bipolar disorder alone costs the United States $24 billion a year, or between $12,000 and $625,000 per patient per year, depending on the number of episodes. Okay, and that was at the time of this book being written, which, let me just flip back. That's not. Let's go back just one page more. No, page 4. Boy, this book has been heavily read. This was published in 2004. So since this was 2004, we're 21 years past that, and things have definitely exceeded those numbers by far. Okay, so not only is depression costly, it kills. A 5-year study conducted by the World Health Organization cites suicide from depression as the 4th leading cause of death worldwide. And by 2020, it's expected to be the 2nd, despite increasing availability of generic selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. Those are SSRIs. It's really shocking, like the numbers. And this was, again, 2004. We're now in 2025. And definitely, you see around you signs of people's depression. You see around you signs of people feeling alienated. You see around you people acting out. And because mental illness has skyrocketed, and these people don't even know that they're suffering from depression, and that's why they're acting out. It's really very sad that there's so much stigma around depression, that people aren't even aware that they're dealing with it. It's really sad that there isn't enough help for people who suffer from depression. However, if the world would embrace physical activity, if people who were depressed would understand that the best thing that they need to do is get physically active, whether that's go to the gym, jump on a yoga mat, or go for a walk, and do so regularly, the brain chemicals would change enough that it would be easier to cope. If people would reach out to other people and talk to other people, they would realize that they weren't the only ones dealing with this. And that is why I'm doing this series. I don't personally suffer from depression, but I do know what it's like, because after an accident, I did have an episode where I was very depressed, and I got out of it quite quickly. But and I never went back to it. But that's me. But there's so many people out there that drop into depression and really have to wait until they come back out of it. And that may affect their work, that may affect their relationships, that may affect every aspect of their lives. So I don't take that lightly, because it's not a small thing. That's why I'm talking about this. Because there are many people who need to hear this. Maybe somebody in your life is suffering from depression and you're unaware. Maybe you yourself are suffering from depression on some level and you're not aware. You know, it's to raise awareness. Raise awareness. Okay, so back to the text. When Eli Lilly introduced Prozac, the first SSRI, in 1987, it was going to revolutionize the treatment of depression. Millions of people worldwide take this antidepressant medication or one of the newer SSRIs. Yet the number of suicides continues to mount. A Nottingham Medical School in the UK study released in 2001 has found that suicide is the leading cause of death among pregnant women and women with a child under 1 year old. Okay, let's unpack that. Why are so many young mothers suffering from depression? Postpartum depression is very, very common. And sometimes it's a lack of support, sometimes it's a perceived lack of support. Whatever it is, young mothers are having a very difficult time coping in today's world. Today's world has too many expectations on us. We put too many expectations on ourselves and on others. But chiefly we put them on ourselves. And we don't ask for help when we need help. And sometimes when we do ask for help, it's just not there. Meaning from others in our lives, and also help to deal with the depression. From what I have been given to understand, an awful lot of women are letting people know that they're suffering from depression and there isn't treatment available where they live. Or the waiting list is so long that by the time they get the treatment, that the danger is already passed. So it's kind of sad. Our society has all the answers, but yet hasn't got the capacity to let those answers help everybody who needs them. And not just in this respect, but let's keep to one topic of depression here. According to a recent report published by the University of Washington's Kids Count, mental health problems have now surpassed injuries as the single most common reason for hospitalizations among children 5 to 19 in the state of Washington. And currently nationwide, suicide is the third biggest killer of young people between the ages of 15 and 24. Something is terribly wrong with this picture. Why are so many of us serotonin deficient? Well, research with rhesus monkeys, I'm not sure whether that's rhesus or rhesus. Somebody can tell me who's an expert in that area, has clearly demonstrated that major life stressors such as early childhood trauma actually change brain chemistry. When baby monkeys were taken away from their mothers, their serotonin levels dropped. Many other studies have shown that stress affects the levels of neurotransmitters like serotonin, and dopamine. Could it be that stressors inherent in our modern culture are the source of an international serotonin deficiency causing depression in epidemic proportions? That the species mind of our postmodern world is depressed? There may be good reason for this. The flip side of our ever-advancing technological culture. From the beginning of the Christian era, it took 1,500 years for our collective knowledge of the universe to double. Currently, scientists estimate that our collective knowledge doubles every 18 months. With that increased information has come a loss of connection, a loss of meaning, a loss of transcendence, the kind so easily achieved in ancient and indigenous cultures. Some of us carry that loss of meaning in the form of psychiatric symptoms. Many of us carry that loss of meaning in the form of depression. We are suffering in epidemic proportions as individuals, as a community, and as a culture. We may have more information than ever before, but we've lost the truth of who we are, who we really are. The knowledge that at the core of our beings, we are not separate from others and from the universe. The ancient texts call this suffering avidya, or ignorance. It's forgetfulness of who we really are. Avidya. Avidya blinds us to our perfection, to the knowledge that we are born divine. There is no original sin in the system of yoga. There is only wholeness and separation. When we forget that we belong to one another and to the universe, that we are deeply connected to all living beings, we feel separate and alone, and we suffer. Through the practice of yoga, we awaken to the knowledge that what is most true about us, our soul is always here. Indeed, there is only one soul. Whether we are in this human form in this lifetime or not, there is only one consciousness. The yogis call this Atman. This is our true nature. And when we remember this, our suffering disappears. And this is at the core of why yoga is beneficial when we're dealing with depression, because it isn't just physically doing the yoga, it's the knowledge that we are all connected. And the movement helps us to feel that we are connected, first to ourselves and then to others, because when we feel depressed, we feel disconnected, not just from others, but we don't feel connected to ourselves. It's almost as if a part of you is just missing, gone, or dead. And it's very helpful to have a boost of prana, or life force energy, to lift one out of this lack of prana, because essentially that's what it is. When we feel depressed, we are lacking in prana. And how do we get prana? We get prana through deep breathing. We get prana through eating fresh foods. And we get prana through community, relationship, through having a great big hug with somebody who you know really cares about you. And if there isn't someone who really cares about you, you have to learn to be that person who loves yourself. So, first and foremost, yoga is about treating yourself like you are the beloved. And if you treat yourself like you are the beloved, then what's external becomes less important in terms of your capacity to feel good, to get through life well. That doesn't mean you don't need relationship. But if you are not in relationship, you should not suffer. You should be comfortable being on your own. And then feel fantastic when you're around people. But there are many, many people who are not comfortable being alone. And they feel that in community they'll feel better. And then they go into community and then they're still kind of like not fully present. That is why yoga helps. Because it teaches you how to be present. You cannot go through a series of asanas without being present. You can't sit for meditation without being fully present. You've got to be physically in a position with your spine nice and tall, and you have to be physically prepared to receive energy and to let go of that which does not serve you, whether it's relationships, mindset, apana, which is energy that needs to go. It's extremely important that we understand that the root of all depression is a lack of prana. Even when there are underlying situations and chemical issues, and even if one has to take medication for such. Yoga and meditation can play a role in helping people through periods of depression. And for those who depression is a lifetime challenge, it can help them get through life. That much for today. Rani Yoga Devi, signing off.